An age ago, the beating heart of our people was a king who knew only victory. He wanted nothing more than an honorable death on the battlefield. Yet, none could match him, and so he wandered the earth, becoming lost in time and tide. Then we too lost our honest purpose, while silk-clad men sat upon the throne. But tremble now, all cities that lay under the stars, for out of the shadows and mists of the land of promise, our courage has been rekindled, our heart has returned, and the world will burn.
All right, how's everybody doing tonight? I see a lot of people, familiar faces in the chat. If someone could just give me a shout out to make sure that you can make sure that tell me if you can hear me. Let me put it that way, just to make sure. And just shout out to the people in the chat here. I see Vaz, I see Abraxas. Let's see who else is here. Tony is here. Great. Michael says they can hear me. Great. Michael's here, of course. Pedro, Mutt is here. Stress level is here. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Tonight, I'm just going to do a fairly, well, I won't say unprepared talk about the lost art of visual storytelling, a very specific part of the lost art of visual storytelling, and it has to do with show don't tell, and I want to talk about that. But first, a couple of updates for people, just to let everyone know. If you're looking for information, I'm going to do some community posts and things like that for my two campaigns that are still outstanding, which is my superhero comic, which is the Valiant Heroes, and my fantasy comic, Crom the Destroyer. I'll give you a little update right here. Since the Valiant Heroes, we had problems just because we couldn't get it printed in December, and I'm trying to get scheduled with the printer and things like that. So with that extra time, I actually did another backup story for the main book, which is the graphic novel. I had Renzo do a small 2-page backup story, which is also going to be included in the book. I just now have to get that colored and lettered. So, a little bit of extra steps there, but I'm adding extra pages for people because we have a bit of a late book, because it was supposed to ship at the, November, I do believe, or December, actually December. And Crom the Destroyer, the thing about Crom the Destroyer is that is going to be late as well, if you haven't noticed, because I was originally looking for a third artist so we could do all 3 chapters at once, and so save time on that. But I really could not find a third artist that was up to the level of the beautiful, spectacular art of both Jim O'Reilly and Nick X. I'm going to put some of that in the background just to show you some of that art that I'm talking about, at least for Jim O'Reilly. I think we have some Nick X stuff here too. I'll put that up. But this is amazing art, and I just did not want to put a third artist on the book that would not have that level of quality for the third chapter. I did not want to sink the third chapter by having a artist that wasn't going to live up to the amazing art that you are going to get in chapter 1 and chapter 2. So I have Nick Axe doing also chapter 3, which is going to extend the amount of time. Obviously, the book is going to come out because I have one artist working on 2 chapters at once. So just to let everybody know, that is the delay with both of those books and what's going on. But you will be getting with the Valiant Heroes additional pages, and with Crown the Destroyer superior art. I think we're looking for superior art for that third chapter, and some of the stuff that Nick Axe is giving to me now for the pages he's given me, it's just amazing. You should go over to my Twitter page and take a look at some of the stuff there, the hashtag Crown the Destroyer that I'm posting. It's amazing stuff, just to let you know. So there's that. Besides that, I'm going to just give my little rant about visual storytelling for probably about 15 minutes, maybe a little longer, and then I will go through the chat. And if anybody has any questions for me at all, if you're new here, just ask away in the chat. If you could put a question mark or tag me on it so that I know you're talking to me and you want me to answer that question, I will do so when I'm done of my little spiel. And as I said, you can ask me anything about my crowdfunded comics, about anything in my videos from Saturday, my normal Saturday videos, anything from tonight, anything at all. So what I wanted to talk about tonight was the lost art of visual storytelling, which has to do with show, don't tell. Now, this is one of the ideas that is paramount within something like comics. Okay, but it's not just comics. I know when I was writing novel manuscripts, my editor said the exact same thing: show, don't tell. And my editor would kick whole scenes back to me and say, show, don't tell. Rewrite this entire thing. So show, don't tell is a rule. It's a writer's rule. It's one of the top writer's rules today. And it's probably one of the reasons why, if you have read any current comics, why you don't like them, why it's scratching at the back of your mind, because they tell, don't show. Now, here's the thing. There is one, well, I'd probably say one, but the one that I'm going to concentrate on is a time where show, don't tell is not ignored, but is almost expanded upon. And it is the idea of infer, don't show, which is to say, you show a picture of something which is going to infer much more than what you were actually going to show if you're going to show it directly. Now, this is something that I've been thinking about for a long, long time. We're talking about 20, 30 years. But I ran across a video. I'll put, well, one of my art circles through here. I'll put up the video in the background, and I linked it in the description. It's called The Most Brilliant Shots in Movie History. And I watched it recently, and I will sum up a little bit of what it has to say and that add to it my own thoughts, which I've been mulling over for decades now. So in this video, they talk about inferring things. And what you do with these brilliant shots is infer something which you can't show on screen. Now, here's the problem why nobody does this anymore. Why? I would say because we live in and hopefully, if your mother's in the background listening to you, listen to this. I'm not talking about what you think I'm talking about. It's visual pornography is what we have today, because pornography doesn't mean just sexualization. It means to show everything. So that's when you have like horror porn. It is horror that shows everything that happens within that horrible scene. Or you have these so-called romance novels for women. Yeah, they're pornography. Why? Because they show everything, even though they're just using words, even though there's no actual pictures, because they describe everything. And the thing is, we live in a society right now, at the very least North America, and I would say most of Europe as well. We live in a society where there are no more taboos about what you can say, about what you can show. And so there's no reason for people to actually infer anything. They just think, show, don't tell. That's one of the writer's rules. Therefore, I'm just going to show this. And the thing is that if you are at that point where you don't have to infer anything because you can show everything, nobody gets good at inferring something and using visuals that are more stunning and have more impact than if you had shown the thing actually directly. Okay, so let me just see here. I will put up some things in the background. I just got to change a couple of the screens here. Give me 1 second. I have to hide this art, this beautiful art, and then I'm going to share the screen for this YouTube video. I'm not going to put any audio up in the background, just the visuals, because that's all I really need. So here is the YouTube video, and it is showing I can't remember the movie's names of each of these off the top of my head, but there is a scene that he shows here where you have a woman who is riding a horse and she's burying the spurs in the horse, and the horse is kicking. The horse does not like this at all, and you see the horse taking off, and then all you see in the next scene is the horse without a rider limping towards the house. And that's the entire scene. And this is the infer, don't show. Why? Because they never showed any of the intervening things, what would happen to the woman that was riding the horse, but you know exactly what happened to the woman. The horse got in trouble. He hurt himself. He threw the rider off. The rider is nowhere to be seen. So the rider is somewhere out there hurt as well. And this is inferred within this one scene of this horse limping riderless up to the house. So they didn't show anything of what happened to the rider. They just inferred it with this scene. And it's a brilliant scene, obviously. Why this guy is including it in the most brilliant shots in movie history. I would completely agree. And let me just scroll down. There's a couple of others. Sunset Boulevard, I think, is the other movie that he shows here. And the thing about Sunset Boulevard, he says that this is the most iconic and brilliant inferring of any scene in movie history. Oops, for crying out loud. I apologize here. I'm going to have to take this off. This is the ads that play. But okay, there we go. So here's the point in the movie. Okay, the guy is a screenwriter and he comes to live with an actress who's basically washed up. And the thing is that the actress, let me see if I can make this a little bigger on the screen here. Give me 1 second. No, full screen layout. Let me see. Full screen layout. Let me try that. There we go. So what happens in the movie is that this actress, if I remember correctly, in her mansion, none of the inside doors have any locks. And he asks the butler, why are there's no actual door handles, not just locks, no door handles on any of the doors. And so the screenwriter asks the butler, why are there no door handles on any of the doors? He says, because Madam tried to kill herself once. She locked herself in a room. Therefore, we need to get into every room, so they can't have any door handles on them, so we can get into every room. So the point is that the main character of the show, of the movie, does something to make this washed up movie actress incredibly upset. She runs into one of the rooms and then she closes the door, and the camera lingers on the door without the door handle in it, which is a way of inferring that, of course, she's going to try to kill herself. So again, this is because back in these black and white movie times, you couldn't show the woman trying to kill herself. You couldn't put that on the screen. Therefore, they're using this extremely powerful shot to infer all the things that are going to happen to this woman here. I think he gives another one of these as well. There's oh, right. The other one is, well, he actually gives two more, but here's the other one from what is it? The Grass is Greener. Hopefully it won't bring me back to the what is it? To the stuff that they're going to show, the ads. So The Grass is Greener is basically about this man and woman who they were going to have an affair, and then they said to themselves, no, we're not going to have an affair. We're just going to be platonic friends. We're going to go do all these things together as platonic friends. So go on, go to the theater, go watch a show, go have a meal together, go rowing down, go in a rowboat and just spend time together. And then you have shot after shot of, here's one of an empty boat, and they're not there. And then the next shot is a restaurant where they had made reservations and no one's at their table. And the third shot is the one coming up where, oh, again, no, they were going to have a picnic and no one's there at the picnic. And the next one is they're going to go to see a show and their seats are empty. So again, this is a time in movie history where they couldn't show all of that, what they're doing on the screen. So they inferred it by saying they were supposed to be at all these places, but they never showed up. So where do you think they are? So obviously, it's telling all the people in the audience of the movie that where they are is they're having an affair, which they promised they wouldn't do. So the reason why I was thinking about this, and for a long time thinking about this, because I ran across the same thing. There was a movie back in it was late 80s, early 90s. I can't remember. I think it was a Kiefer Sutherland movie about his girlfriend that gets kidnapped. If anybody has an idea of the name of that movie in the comments, let me know. But anyways, in that movie, it was a remake of an old black and white movie, and the girl gets kidnapped and then murdered, if I remember correctly. And they basically showed that on screen for the new movie that came out in the Kiefer Sutherland one. But if you go back and watch the original movie, which I did, the original movie has an inference of her getting killed, but it never actually shows the woman getting killed because, of course, it's a black and white movie. They can't show that on screen. And the scene there was a scene of it was a door, and it was basically mostly in darkness because there was light in the room, but not in the room where the camera was. So a man opens the door. Inside the door, you can see the woman, and she's tied up. She's frantic, actually, not tied up. She's frantic, and he closes the door, and then it pans down, and all you can see is the light underneath the door. And you can see from the shadows that are underneath in this little strip of the door that there's a struggle going on. And after that, there's also a dog in the main room. This dog scratches and barks and tries to get through this door because he hears this struggle and because he's trying to defend the woman who's in there getting killed. But you can't see any of it. And then all of a sudden, after it shows the dog, it pans back down to the light underneath the door, and all the movement has ceased. So this is an inference that there was a struggle, the woman died, and she was killed, but they didn't show any of it on the screen. And again, it's because they couldn't show any of it on the screen that they came up with this spectacular way of actually telling the story. And when I ran across that, which was again late 90s, no, late 80s, early 90s, I think that movie came out, and I went back and watched the black and white one. This is exactly the kind of thing that I was always thinking about for visuals. Excuse me. And again, the whole point of why nobody does this anymore is because we live in a society where there is no taboos and you can put whatever you want down on the page. It doesn't matter if you work for Marvel or DC, they'll just slap a black label on it or say that this is for teens or whatever else and think, well, we can put whatever we want down on the page as long as you put a warning on it so the right audience gets to it. That's all you got to do. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what you do to put something down on the page, what kind of visual that you have, just actually show it. And I would say that is something that does not bring out the best in visual storytelling, to say the least. And so I would say for my own self, now I'm not someone who is as comfortable with sequential storytelling right now to actually implement that rule, which is an advanced rule, I would say, of infer, don't show. But I do try to infer some things with some of my panels. Yeah, I just have to clear my throat. Just 1 second. If you could hold on, I will be. Anyway, so there's a panel in the Valiant Heroes where some people have said to me, why do you have this whole panel? You could use it so much better than showing this guy's boots hitting the ground, because he jumps off a ledge and he's a superhero. When he hits the ground, you just see his boots hitting the ground and a big boom sound. Okay. There's nothing really to it. There's no fight. There's no anything else. But the point is, for me, is that this is Pulse, my character Pulse, and he's a soldier, or he was a soldier. Thomas Valiant, my main character in my last book, he was. He always calls him Sergeant, and the character, which is Farrell in the book for the Valiant Heroes, she calls him Soldier Man. Okay, so he's very much a soldier. He acts as a soldier all the time, even though he's not in the army anymore. And the thing to me is that after jumping off of that ledge and then hitting the ground, the idea of boots hitting the ground, that's an idea of a soldier. So, it's again inferring more than just what I would show when I am showing somebody, well, he's hitting the ground. Well, I'm inferring that, yeah, he's hitting the ground, but he's hitting the ground like a soldier. Not only does he have army boots on, but at the same time, the phrase, if you're an army brat or someone who's been in the army, first boots on the ground is a phrase. You're someone who is first boots on the ground. You're someone who is in with the first of the invasion force, and boots hitting the ground is a military way of saying that soldiers are there. Boots have hit the ground. So again, that's my small way of trying to infer something. And I do that every once in a while to try to, again, infer, not show. Because for me, again, if I get really good at this, which I hope to do in short order, I will use that idea of infer, don't show. Because to me, to me, I'm making comics that I want to be accessible by all ages. And I, at the same time, want to make it accessible to young children if they want to read it, but at the same time, not make it boring to older people and older comic fans if they're reading it at the same time. That was the beauty of older comics, if you ask me. And I'm trying to do the exact same thing. And I have a standard of things that I will not show. They're my personal standard, and I just will not put them down on the page because I don't think that they would be friendly to a younger audience, nor do I want to show it to any audience, quite honestly, if I'm making the book. So you're not going to get any, well, again, I use the word pornographic imagery in any way. With extreme violence. That's one of the things with Crom the Destroyer. I tried to minimize the amount of blood that's shown on the screen. Whereas you look at most fantasy copies of Conan right now out there, you're going to get blood and guts up the wazoo. You're going to see, everything strewn out across the battlefield, people getting limbs hacked off, and not only blood and guts but entrails just strewn across the page. You're not going to see that with my book. You're going to see little bits of blood here and there, but you're going to see inference of the end of that strike and how severe it was, things like that. Why? Because once again, as I said, I'm not giving you a book that's for mature readers. I am giving you a book that's for all readers. And when you have a standard of things that you just will not show, it hones that ability to get into the headspace of infer, don't show. Now, most of the time you should show, don't tell, but you need to be able to, I would say, not circumvent that rule, but add upon that rule so that you can infer and don't show. That's the superior way of telling a visual story, and that is the lost art of visual storytelling that no one uses today. Mainstream comics do not show, don't tell to begin with, and they certainly can't get to the edge of infer, don't show. And even other people who are out there making really good indie comics that don't have any of this nonsense in them that you're going to find within your mainstream comics, they too, they're so used to the idea of being able to put anything down on a page, they no longer stretch themselves out to that idea of infer, don't show. So that's my little rant for today. Hopefully you guys found it interesting, to say the least. If you've been here for the last 20 minutes, hopefully you found it interesting. But I just really wanted to talk about that because it's something that I ran across again this week, and it's something that that's been digging at the back of my mind for decades. So I'm going to go through the chat here and give people a little shout out, see who is here. And if you have any questions, Lost the Plot is here. He followed me over from John's Longbox. We were just doing our weekly comic book team up, talking to the author of Wolf and Batsy. Sound Engraver is here. Thank you very much for showing up, Sound Engraver. And I always give Sound Engraver a shout out. If you want to see a channel like mine, but with slightly different focuses on what is talked about, go over and take a look at Sound Engraver's channel. She does a lot on storytelling, just like I do. Well, used to do, or tried to do anyways. But she does some fantastic live streams as well. There was one this week that I could only see for a couple of minutes, and I missed the rest of it. It was great. Let's see. Pedro is here. Let's see. Paulus is here. How you doing, Paulus? And who else is here? Let's see. Improbi. Let's see. What is your statement? I don't think I've seen you here before. Good to see Crom is still on demand to back. It is. You can still back Crom the Destroyer. Let's see what else we got here. Scrolling down, scrolling down. Pedro has a question. Pedro says, I always wondered this past year which was your red pill moment in a comic that makes you say, what the hell am I reading? Honestly, Pedro, that my red pill came long before the term red pill actually got invented, long before the Matrix. It was really the mid 90s when I hit stuff in comics that I went, I'm done being preached to. Quite honestly, it was the mid 90s. That's when I stopped reading mainstream comics that were coming out on the shelf. And I just started reading back issues and buying collections and things like that. I started introducing myself to current comics and all the stuff I missed around 2000 when I started my channel, which is 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. So there was that. And when I got to that point, at the very least, I was surrounded by people in this space who could understand what I was saying back in 1996. Because in 1996, I'd be going into the comic shop and going, this is nonsense. This is people preaching to you. This is propaganda. And they would look at me like I had three heads. But today, no, I say the exact same thing because it's now 20 years on, or well, almost 30 years on from that point. And yeah, people can see that and have been able to see that for at the very least the last 10 years. So my red pill, I don't remember what my red pill point was, but quite honestly, for comics anyways, one of the ones that I actually do remember was oh Star Trek Enterprise. That was my red pill for Star Trek. That was preachy. That was really preachy, especially when we got to the episode where I can't remember, the character was talking about how polygamy was normal on his planet and how humans were all a bunch of stodgy people. And I went, yeah, done, really done with this. Anyways, so scrolling down, see who else is here. Rex is here. How you doing, Rex? Stress level. Yeah, he said hi to Nick X is here. How you doing, Nick? Nick is the beautiful artist for Crom the Destroyer for chapters 2 and 3, along with Jim O'Reilly for chapter 1 that I was just talking about and showing some of his work. John's Longbox is here. He has to go to bed. You get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. How you doing, John? I don't want you. You got to go turn on the generator at 6, John. If you're still here, you better get some sleep. Let's see. Pedro is here. Let's see. Pedro also says, I think I said Pedro was here before. For Pedro, to me, it was um, when they decided to make Iceman gay. I was reading the story and I was there and thinking, WTF? Yeah. All right. Yeah. John is gone. He says good night. Let's see. Da, da, da. All right. Scrolling down. Let's see who else is here. The Vanishing. Thank you very much, Tony. The Vanishing is indeed the name of the movie. I think it starred Kiefer Sutherland. But yeah, The Vanishing was an old black and white movie. So that's the movie I was talking about the scene with the door and the light underneath the door and the dog and all that kind of stuff. I would say, quite honestly, go and watch the black and white one if you want to watch a suspenseful movie. And really get something out of a movie, go watch The Vanishing. It's not the best movie in the world for the black and white. There are plenty of really good black and white movies. I recently ran across people. I was watching, I don't know, reaction videos for people who, react to movies, because I've seen these movies dozens of times and these people are just getting introduced to these movies from the 80s. And the channel that I usually watch did It's a Wonderful Life over Christmas. And I was one of the first commenters and I said, seriously, you've gone this long in your life and you have never seen It's a Wonderful Life. Seriously? And somebody responded to my comment and said, a lot of people just discount black and white movies as being no good. They say to themselves, or people have told them, or it's just in their back of their minds that if it's black and white, I'm not going to watch it because there's nothing interesting there. And that is the worst attitude in the world. If you want to see spectacular storytelling, go back and watch black and white movies. And again, The Vanishing would be one of those good black and white movies. Not great, but good. Let's see. Scrolling down. Who else we got here? Scrolling down. I think, let's see, Lost the Plot here has a statement that I'll read. I was reading a book by Phil Visker on how to create VeggieTales. He took off because how he created VeggieTales. Okay, excuse me. He took off because college kids in bookstores started playing the tapes by themselves because they liked the Monty Python writing. Okay. I'm not sure, quite honestly, how that feeds into what we're talking about today, but interesting to say the least. Let's see. Scrolling down. Lamask is here. Lamask has a question. Do you think it's possible to use it in indie game storytelling as in comics? The infer don't tell or infer don't show? Yeah, definitely. Oh, gaming would be a spectacular way to use this, quite honestly. To me, anyways, I'm always used to cutscenes. I don't know if they use them too much right now in current gaming, but cutscenes, I think you could use that rule spectacularly, and that way you're not having um to render all of that scene. You're just rendering a small bit of things like shadow and light, or you're focusing on something that doesn't move in order to infer something, so it would work beautifully there and save you a lot of money as well. So let's see, scrolling down, Alessandro is here. How you doing? He says, RJ, what is your opinion on biblically accurate angel memes? I don't really know what you're referring to. I think I've seen some people trying to draw biblically accurate angels, but angels are incorporeal beings, so describing them is kind of like describing Galactus. Because what is it in John Byrne introduced the idea that every creature sees Galactus as themselves. So as angels, being incorporeal beings, they have no actual body in order for you to describe. So describing them is just a means of visualization more than anything else. So that would be my take on it, I guess. Let's see. Scrolling down. Dr. Phlox. Thank you very much, Michael. Dr. Phlox was the doctor on Enterprise. Yeah. Yeah, I just Enterprise, I was done. I was getting, I really didn't like the Next Generation as much as I thought I would. And then Deep Space Nine was kind of boring. Voyager, it had its moments, but when we got into Enterprise, it was like, no, I'm done. I'm just done. And I was a massive Trekkie when I was young, for original Star Trek, anyways. And I did crazy things like tape things before we had VCRs or anything of the kind. I would tape them on audio cassettes and listen to them over and over again, things like that. And I had, a cardboard cutout of Mr. Spock in the side of my room, and I had the Enterprise and a bird of prey and a Klingon warbird hanging from my light fixture at one point, along with a Robotech mecha, I think. So yeah, I was a big Star Trek fan. I was. So let's see. Vaz says, how you doing, Vaz? In the past, when someone just ended her stay on Earth, it would be something like a bathtub shown at floor level with an arm poking out and blood dripping, leaving the full scene to the imagination. Yes, that would be again one of the things. But again, one of the scenes that you would see. But the more and more the taboos fell, the more and more they showed of that scene and what actually happened. Vaz also says, in the new era, they would put the camera high above, showing full gore and nudity. Yeah, exactly. And I don't think, well, I just think that it doesn't make for good storytellers. And in some ways doesn't make for good storytelling, because if you have a bad storyteller, you don't have a good story, quite honestly. Alessandro also says, RJ, what is the biggest difference between classic heroines like Brad Bradamante from Orlando Fusio's Mulan and modern heroines? Furioso? Orlando. All right. Hopefully, I didn't butcher that too badly, because I know I butchered it. What are the difference between classic heroines and modern heroines? Well, let me try to, Sandro, I tried to get this down to a principled answer. That is to say, to go back to logic and get it down to the most uh, widest the widest explanation for it altogether that would feed into so many other reasons why. And the widest explanation I would give for the difference between classical heroines and modern heroines is that classically you understood that there was a difference between a man and a woman, that a woman is not a man and a man is not a woman. We might have, I would, in my, in my belief system, women and men are equal in dignity, but we're definitely different in our makeup, how we act, and there is an acknowledged acceptance of that. And so you can play off of that in order to show the virtuous or the vicious spirit of someone, whether they be a hero or a villain. And when you miss that important, all essential important point, you're going to miss so many things down the line. And it gets to the Mary Sue's, that it gets to the point where we have Mary Sue's like we do today. I think that would be the essence of the difference, if you ask me. Let's see. Michael has a good comment here. He says there are tons of good black and white movies, even the ones with lots of dancing. Oh yeah, oh definitely. Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movies are great, especially the ones with George Burns in them. Yeah, those are some I used to watch before we had any, you know, any kind of cable or anything like that. We had like 3 channels, 2 sometimes. And there was late movies on before the channel would go off the air, and they would show old black and white British movies. That's where I would watch things like The Man in the White Suit, or the other Alec Guinness one that I can remember, where he got granted powers to be able to do anything by these 2 gods, to see what he would do with them. And there was also Fred Astaire movies and Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, Marx Brothers movies, just so many great Marx Brothers movies are just hilarious, if you ask me. But yeah, even the dancing ones, they're good movies, and they can make you care about these movies even though they turn into musicals. That's something you're not going to find today. All right, so let's see. Vaz, I don't know if this comment is for me. I don't think so. One of the comics that had me at a WTF am I reading is Superman Blue. Yes, I did a video about Superman Blue, and quite honestly, well, let me just put it this way. A lot of people were saying this is what it is, and then the creator said, yeah, that's what I was doing with Superman Blue. To me, I don't want to put it this way, but I'm so old and fuddy-duddy that when I read Superman Blue, I didn't even get that. Like, it went completely over my head. I thought it was a awful book because of the way that Superman was thinking, that he would actually want to kill this person, burn him into cinders with his heat vision. He just didn't actually do it, but he wanted to do it. That wasn't Superman. But all the other, we'll just say, things that they inferred, that just flew completely over my head, because again, that's, I don't know, I'm just that old, I guess. So yeah, that was an awful book. I agree, it was an awful book. Let's see. Scrolling down. Oh, okay. Lost the Plot says, I mean, VeggieTales was meant with kids and parents in mind. Well, that's a good way to enter into the subject. Yes. Let's see. Lost Spot also says, I remember being being at a Christian bookstore, growing. The tapes were playing on a loop, and it was free marketing, well written for everyone, but child friendly. Well, that's kind of what I want to go for. It's not that I'm trying to make it explicitly child friendly, but if a kid picks it up and reads it, he's not going to see things or read things that are going to be beyond his keen, nor should be kept away from someone who's a developing individual. Uh, let's see. Pedro says, basically what you're saying is that people watch something and be aware of the lack of a thing that should be there. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Pedro, because within visual storytelling, they talk a lot all the time about negative spaces. You have visual artists, illustrators, sequential artists, they talk about negative space, and you can have negative space in story as well. And that negative space will just be lingering on a shot. Now, I would say it's extremely hard to do, or, well, I would say it's very much different on a visual medium like comic books than it would be in something like movies or video games. Why? Because again, you control the pacing with actual time within a movie, right? If you linger on that door, then it's going to linger for a certain amount of seconds before it cuts away to something else. But within sequential storytelling, like a comic, as Will Eisner said, it is the pacing that you've set for your reader and allowed them to experience that will allow them also to linger their gaze on a certain scene. And if you haven't set it up correctly, then they will not linger on that scene and just will not get what you're trying to put down within this idea of inferring, don't show. So let's see. Da, da, da. Scrolling down. Tony says, RJ, what do you think? What do you think that there's such a big why do you think that there's such a big push for alphabet supremacy in modern day popular culture? Why do I think there is? Because you need confused people who are dependent upon the state for all of their needs in order for them to vote for socialist and quasi communist kinds of people into government. Quite honestly, you need the nanny state. And the only way that you can set up the nanny state is you make sure that people need a nanny throughout their life and you put them into that point where they need a nanny all their life by corrupting their childhood and making sure that they never get out of childhood. And this is one of the things. Introducing sexuality to children at a young age is a corrupting force that will turn them into stunted individuals that will need someone to take care of them for the rest of their lives, at the very least mentally, and then they will therefore vote for the people who actually push these things. That's why, if you ask me, if that's what you're talking about, Tony, I think that's the reason. They're using people all around, the politicians and the people who push all of this stuff. They're using people all around to keep them stunted. That's what it is. Let's see. Scrolling down. uh let's see if you have any more comments for me here. Oh yes. Sound Engraver has actually said this before. She says, I love negative space. It works well in music too. I believe it was just to go off of that theme, Sound Engraver. I was in first year university. We had an arts class. It was like Arts 101 or something like that. Everybody who took arts had to take this class. So you can imagine this was a giant auditorium because every first year student that was in any kind of arts degree had to take it. And so we covered a lot of different material. Music was part of the curriculum as well. And the professor stood up there at the front of that giant auditorium and he played for us the Surprise Symphony. And he did not give us any context whatsoever. And if you know the Surprise Symphony, if I think it's a Surprise Symphony, if I'm remembering correctly, because it's been a long time since that happened, there's a point where it just dies out. The music dies out very slowly, very quietly until you get nothing but silence. And all of a sudden it's like bang, and the whole thing comes back. Everybody in that auditorium jumped. And that's a really good use of negative space within music. If that is what negative space within music is. I'm assuming here. You can correct me, Sound Engraver, if I'm wrong. Let's see. Vaz says, not related to today's topic, but I finished reading Savage Sword of Conan 49 to 52 based on Conan the Liberator, the story where he finally becomes a king. Great storyline. Yes, they did that also. I think there's a version of it in the normal Conan comics as well. I think it's Conan King Size Annual #1, which is, I think, based upon that story as well. So it just tells it with different artists. There was a very interesting artist in that one. Let's see, scrolling down. Let's see. Duncan is here. Duncan says, do you think we'll ever see a return to traditional romance between men and women again in our lifetime? I think so. Quite honestly, I think so. I was just talking earlier about the fact that, I saw all this nonsense in 1996, and I just washed my hands of so much of it in 1996. But the thing was that at that point, I thought to myself, how long is it going to take for society to readjust itself? And in my mind, the the date that I had set in my mind for that was around 2050. And we have just about gotten to that point now. So it is quite an advanced schedule that we are on compared to what I thought originally. And it's because these people on the left are pushing so hard for so many ridiculous things that, yeah, there's going to be a time where not only are we going to have sanity back to systems of merit, but we're just going to have a traditional way of looking at things again. I think, I really believe that that's not very far away. Certainly going to be within my lifetime. So that's my answer to that question. Hopefully, I am right about that one. So scrolling down a little more, we have Gunther here. Gunther says, there's a concept of use the gutter in comics that is quite similar to inferring and using negative space. I'm not entirely sure, Gunther, if this is what you're referring to, but there is a point within a lot of traditional art, and I tried to use this in Crom the Destroyer, and my artists as well. Jim O'Reilly does this spectacularly on a couple of pages, but to use the well, basically, it's most of the time it's weapons, and they poke out from the panel into the panel border just a little bit or into the side of the page or things like that. So if that's using the gutter, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not familiar with that term as that, but quite honestly, it's been around for so long. I think there was a medieval painting of Saint Bridget where she was being carried by angels, and in this picture, you see the angels, and the scene itself has a border around it, but the angels' feet and wings actually transcend the border so that they go into the negative space around the picture itself, and it's to infer the incorporeal and otherworldly quality of angels themselves, saying that they can transcend reality because they're actually poking off into the corners of this picture. So things like that have been used for a long time, and I think they are spectacular uses of art. All right, let's see. Scrolling down. Pedro also says negative space you talk that negative space you talk is what in Doom Patrol, the white space, everything that didn't happen on the panels. Well, the thing is that well, hopefully I'm getting at what you're trying to say here, Pedro. But the thing is that panel gutters are supposed to be, again, you go back to Will Eisner's rules, panel gutters and panel separations are supposed to be the time between each of those sequences of the sequential art. So to transcend them is to, in some way, also to say that this continues on through the intervening things that you don't see. So yeah, the use of negative space is very versatile. Let's see. Sound Engraver says, yes, Surprise Symphony. It's it it's surprised to be the premier goers too. They weren't used to that back then. Yeah, I guess it was a Surprise Symphony. But yeah, it surprised me. Let me tell you, going through the speakers of that auditorium. Alessandro says, "What do you think about the actual situation in the Catholic Church?" Alessandro probably follows me on Twitter. I think you do, Alessandro, and knows that I am Catholic. So, what do I think about the situation? I just have, for the point. Let me put it this way: I just try to be a good Catholic, and whatever it is, I will probably um, deal with the people in my family, and that's the part of the church that I have to deal with, and hopefully we will not succumb to all of the nonsense that we have besides that. Because if you don't know what he's talking about, there's basically a woke culture within the Catholic Church, which is trying to subvert many of the things that are there as well. Just like in comics, just like in movies, just like in pop culture. Let's see. Scrolling down. Let's see. Sound Engraver says silence is monophony, one sound inside paleophonic. I don't know. Let's see. Many sounds is a great use of negative space. Polyphony. Polyphony? I don't know. The first time I've ever encountered that word. Thank you very much for expanding my vocabulary, Sound Engraver. Let's see. Tony says, RJ, what is your opinion about Steamboat Willie entering public domain? I think it's a very good precedent. I don't really care about it or anything that's going to come from it, but it is an extremely good precedent to finally be set because the trademark and public domain ideas in the United States have been stretched to the breaking point of Mickey Mouse. So they finally broken, and we can now actually have things go into the public domain. Because, like, for Crom the Destroyer, or I mean, not Crom the Destroyer, Conan the Barbarian. Like Conan the Barbarian right now, because you're in Europe, they have different laws, different public domain laws than we do in the United States and North America. And theirs are shorter because they didn't care about Mickey Mouse. And so Conan the Barbarian is public domain in Europe right now. And they're publishing Conan the Barbarian stuff in Europe right now, but you can't publish it in the United States right now without going through a whole bunch of hoops. Why? Because it's not in public domain in the United States right now because of Mickey Mouse. So, anyways, it's ridiculous, honestly. Everybody, they need to get their act together. So hopefully this will help that. Let's see. Lost the Plot has another interesting comment. He says, negative space was used perfectly in Tracer, Bullet, Calvin and Hobbes strips, and the Monster Under the Bed ones. Let's see. Was Jason and Marcus from the Foxtrot based on Calvin and Hobbes? They both made Eldritch snowmen. Eldritch, I guess, because they had many heads sometimes and a whole bunch of arms and things like that. I have no idea. But even though I was a fan of Calvin and Hobbes, I could not tell you what their use of negative space actually was. Let's see. Yes, Michael, I think you summed it up here. Disney finally losing is awesome. Yes, indeed, because they have destroyed so much. So Gunther says, to use negative space, you need a common understanding what is the nature of people. Without it, people will see different things in negative space and the narrative won't work. Yeah. Again, yeah, I agree with that. And when you have people like today who don't understand nor agree that there is such a thing as a common nature of people, it's extremely hard to use inferring like I have been describing. But at the same time, if there is, and I do firmly believe that there is a fixed human nature for all human beings, you can access the very fundamentals of that to try to draw on that for your use of a common ground to get people to understand things. Let's see. Scrolling down. Alessandro says, I'm working on a comic in the style of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, basically a world where all public domain works are real. That would be an interesting world, I would say. It's probably best. I wouldn't direct you. I wouldn't assume to direct you, Alessandro. Where I would go with it would be to concentrate on one or two characters and then include the others. But I would be interested to see what you do with that. Sound Engravers correcting me here. Polyphony. It's a hard word, meaning many, and phony meaning sound. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Sound Engraver. I think I'm getting down to the last of the chat here, and which is good because I've been talking for about 53 minutes. Couple of few left here. Pedro says, I think Disney's situation is sad, but needs to bleed money to be aware of what people want. Indeed, I agree. Tony says, what is your opinion on how Western Japanese manga translators are rewriting dialogue, adding politics? Quite honestly, it makes me wish I could understand Japanese because I hate it. I detest this kind of thing that's bleeding into it. And quite honestly, it's Japanese. Learning Japanese is something I always wanted to do. And, because I don't watch anything in Japanese. I watch dubbed stuff almost exclusively. I do watch some sub stuff, but not really much, just because I'm so hyper visual that I get caught up in reading the words. I miss the visual and then I feel cheated. So the thing would be that the only way that I could get around it is to learn Japanese. And I would not put that out of the realm of possibility to get around all of this idiocy within what they're putting into the translations. Let's see, scrolling down. Michael says, I think The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was Sean Connery's last movie. No, I don't think it was the last movie. But scrolling down, let's see. Scrolling down to Sound Engraver. She says, we use the word, and we use the words that Sound Engraver has displayed on the screen here for music compositions that have more than one voice or instrument. Well, thank you for letting me know, because I am completely, we'll say, illiterate when it comes to understanding how music works. So you have to explain everything to me. And Sound Engraver just gave me a super chat. Thank you very much, Sound Engraver. Oh, she says, don't go, RJ, keep streaming. I have to go. It's getting late here. 10-hour streams, says Michael. Thank you very much, Sound Engraver, for the super chat. Thank you profusely. And as I said before, go over to Sound Engraver's channel, click on her picture, and I think if you left click on it, you can open up her channel from there, and go give her a subscription. She does some great work over on her channel. Sorry, Michael, no, I can't do a 10-hour stream, nor am I Ethan Van Sciver. I will never do a 10-hour stream. If I one of the reasons why I have to go and get more sleep is because I have to write more. I have to get back to writing more so that we can have more books. And I know everybody that comes here regularly loves me droning on. I have no idea why, but you do. But the thing is that I am a writer first and foremost, and I need to write more because I want to get more books out there as much as possible. So I want to thank everybody for showing up here tonight and listen to me drone on about the lost art of visual storytelling, which has to do with inference and not showing. And if you don't know, I have 3 graphic novels. The links for those are in the description. I guess I should have said that at the first. Oh well. But the links for those are in the description. I have 2 superhero graphic novels. You can get both of those at the Valiant Hero Indiegogo page, and one Return to Form for low fantasy, which is sword and sorcery in the vein of Conan the Barbarian, which is Crom the Destroyer. And you can pick that up or order that and wait for it to be published, because we're still working on some of the pages. But you can order that through the Crom the Destroyer Indiegogo site. So once again, I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight, and I will be doing the next episode on next Wednesday. Will be with John and our comic book team up here on Wednesday night, and then 2 weeks from now, if all goes well, I'll be doing the comic book team up on John's channel, and coming back here after that to do one of these streams of Big Comics Fun again, just to let everybody know. So thank you once again for everybody for showing up. I am going to leave you with the short trailer for Crom the Destroyer. It is the second trailer, which is what I usually have at the end. So I'll see you all later. Bye.
No matter how many wars you fight, no matter how much blood you shed, no matter how much rage you loose, no matter how many demons you face, no matter how many companions you lose, no matter if our kingdom falls, I know that you will return to me in honor.